Welcome back to the Redemption Physical Therapy Podcast. I'm Frederick,
I'm Marissa.
and today we are going to go over a little topic called outdated ortho beliefs. So, ortho is short for orthopedic beliefs. All right. So these are often beliefs that your orthopedic doctor or surgeon may have that are essentially outdated. And if you take offense to this, I'm sorry, but it must be true. All right, let's get into it. So the first thing is rotator cuff tears equals surgery.
Yeah.
Do we always need surgery when we get a rotator cuff tear?
We do not. We do not. There's so many. We have 4 rotator cuff muscles, right? So, oftentimes there's like 1 to 2 that may be damaged in a tearing type incident, right? But the cool thing about rotator cuff tears is the body, depending, of course, the degree of tear and whatnot is important to know. But the body is pretty good at healing. There is a degree of healing that we can do, that our body can do naturally on its own, right? Of course, the healing process is long, and then we have to remodel that new tissue that has been healed, and that comes through strength training and stuff like that. But that's number 1, right? And that's without surgery. But also, too, again, depending on the degree and the severity of the tear, we can leverage and utilize other muscles around the shoulder, the other rotator cuff muscles, even just the other bigger muscles, the deltoid, the biceps, the triceps, the lats, the scapular muscles, all these muscles, we can leverage and really hone in on them and improve. Let's say like the consideration for surgery is because you're in so much pain after this tear. We can leverage those and probably get you out of pain, right? Yeah. We can leverage those and probably get your shoulder moving better and more functional. We can leverage those and probably allow you to have weight overhead again, right? So it's just a matter of, one, the rotator cuff could be the source, the tear could be very well be the source of the pain. Sometimes we talk about how like the root cause, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the rotator cuff tear could very well be a source of the pain, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things that we can improve to improve the overall function of that joint and shoulder and avoid surgery, honestly, in the long run,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it goes to back to, because I get a lot of patients that they get fed like, oh, if this doesn't work in this short period of time, then you need surgery. So it's like that time frame, right?
True, that too.
A lot of times it's like with the healing process, we need an extensive amount of time to allow the healing process to do its thing. Mm-hmm. And if we're shortchanging that by being like, if it's not better by this time frame, then you need surgery. Mm-hmm. Then that's when we run into people thinking that they need surgery, or it's not going to get better.
Right.
And even if it is getting better, they're still pushing surgery.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yep.
If your injury is getting better, you're on the right track, right? Like you're on the right track. Don't lose faith. That's like all I got to say with that one. Just don't lose faith. If your injury is getting better, you're already on the right track without surgery, without somebody opening you up. And even if they say like, oh, it's not that bad, like, it's just this little procedure. It's just, no, you're still going to be set back for a while. And also like, they're causing more damage.
Yeah.
Like you cause more damage when you go in for surgery. So don't think that it's your only option. Just know that it may be an option after you've given the healing process and actual physical therapy some time. Yes. We're biased because we work in the physical therapy realm.
Right. Yeah. And I've worked both ways. Like I've worked with rotator cuff tears where we get them back 100% and they have no issues and they did not get surgery. I've also worked with rotator cuff tears where it came down to the wire and it was like, yeah, it may be a consideration for you. You know what I mean? Like it goes both ways, whether, PT or not, right? Yeah. It's a little biased. I think that everyone should be doing PT first before any type of surgery, or most type of surgeries. But yeah, like I've worked in both situations, and some everyone's individual healing process is individual,
right? Yes.
So it's just but like you said, but what's not individual is yes, the length of time. It, biologically speaking, it will take a certain amount of time for any type of natural healing process to occur. Yeah. And there's only so much we can do to actually speed that up.
Right. And just like you said, like everybody's healing time isn't the same.
No.
Because the factors that go into that, not only, let's just say, like how active an individual is, right? So how healthy that person is as well, right? because I was thinking about this sometime this past week, that a person who actually moves around a lot and they have really good cardiovascular systems, their body's going to be able to efficiently pump blood to those injured areas, right? So let's, like we're talking about the rotator cuff, more efficiently than somebody who isn't in good cardiovascular health.
Right.
So that may, help that person in good cardiovascular health heal a lot faster than that other person.
Right.
That other person may have really good shoulder mechanics, really good musculature around that shoulder. So all they need to do is just like, okay, monitor it a little bit, scale back on the movements that they're doing. And then they're already going to start to feel better because they have better support around their shoulder
Yeah.
compared to the person who doesn't really work out as often. They may be like, work out here and there, or don't work out at all.
Yeah.
And they don't have that support around their shoulder. So now all they are relying on is that rotator cuff, the damaged tissue.
Yeah.
So we have to think about that too, right?
Yep.
So everybody is an individual case. And when we look at ourselves in that way and just being like, okay, this active person, okay, you may heal a lot faster. You may get out of pain a lot quicker. Okay, you're not as active. You haven't been as active for a while. And also you do a lot of activity that requires you to move your shoulder and you can't really stop that activity. Okay, it may take a while for you to get out of that pain, but you can get out of that pain without having surgery. So, because think about it, if they just like, I can't not work, you know what I mean? And they're just like, so I need to do the procedure that's going to get me out of pain the quickest. It's just like, well, if you get surgery, you're going to really be out of work for an extended period of time.
Yes.
And one of the things, and the last thing I'm going to talk about on this topic is just like injections. Like that's one of the things that get pushed a lot. Now, you can get those, right? Like you can get certain type of injections that may help you, but again, it's a Band-Aid solution. It's not like the solution, because a lot of people get it to get out of pain and then get back to what they're doing instead of, let me do this to continue to do what I'm doing, but I do need to figure out the root cause, also reinforce the strength around that area that's damaged, so that way I can move without pain later on down the line.
Yes.
And before this wears off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The root cause is the main thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So spent a good amount of time on that one, but I think we kind of covered the bases on
I'd say
what the main point of that message was. But the next thing is disc herniations equals back pain for life.
I know. It's like, disc herniations. I mean, and not just disc bulges, disc herniations, like they're not a life sentence.
Yeah.
They really aren't. And, and why do I say that? Well, one, we talk about low back pain a lot in our episodes, right? And like a lot of times the source of the low back pain is not the back, right? It's the hips. It's a mobility issue. It's a strength issue. It's something, you know what I mean? It's not structurally something wrong with the back. It's there's something up or down the chain, or a weakness problem, because your back should be strong, that's causing the actual pain. And furthermore, when it comes to these herniations, like there was a study done in like 2015 or something like that. And they took, I forget how many subjects, but they took an amount of healthy subjects, right? They all had back pain. They were all healthy subjects. I'm sorry. They were all healthy subjects. They did not have any back pain. But then 56% of their MRIs showed some sort of problem, right? It was more than half of them.
Yeah.
Whether it was a disc bulge or a disc herniation or degeneration or whatever the term that they wanted to use, that they want to use in your images. They all had that, and none of them had pain. So it makes us question, like, okay, so what is the pain source? If it's not all these like damaged tissues and the herniated disc and whatnot, like what is the pain source? Okay, well that's what we're trying to say. Like it's not usually coming from the actual herniation, right? So it is not a death sentence. There's other studies that show that the body can reabsorb herniations. It's the body can heal itself. Does that happen all the time? The studies are not. They need to be. They need to continue, right? But it is a thing that can happen.
Yep.
Same thing, surgery, not surgery. Like there are decompression surgeries again, or discectomies. They're very simple procedures. Are they 100% positive outcomes? No, No, they're not always positive outcomes, so there's a risk there too. But again, just to get back to the point, no, disc herniations don't always equal pain, let alone pain for life.
Yeah.
They may not even equal the pain that you're having. There's something else going on, and that's where we have to dig and figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, in here, if we're talking about like we have to dig into the pain and figure out what the root cause was, a lot of my patients that I see, like again, they're low back pain or neck pain patients inside of the clinic. But with those people, guess what? They have hip mobility issues. They have a lack of core engagement, dynamic core stability. They have ankle range of motion issues. Maybe they might be a little bit off in their pelvis or
Yeah.
whatnot. But there's a lot of other things that I adjust, I manage, and then all of a sudden they're just like, oh, my back pain feels, a little bit better. And it's funny, like a simple exercise of just like bracing and engaging, because sometimes when we get these injuries, and this is kind of like the way that I put it with my theory, is that some of these muscles become a little less active, or let's just say because of the damage, they're underactive at this point. So now we have to get those re-engaged. So when we get them re-engaged, and then now it's just like, okay, now they're doing what they need to do again. Or again, we need to build the tolerance level of those muscles now, because you got a low back injury and now the tolerance level is a lot lower. So now we have to build up the strength around that area a lot more than we would have if we didn't have the injury in the first place. So you have to think about, if you have some type of low back pain, disc herniation, it's not, one, a death sentence. Two, it doesn't mean you're going to have pain for life. Three, I'm just going to keep numbering things off. That the spine specifically, when it comes to the neck, when it comes to the mid back, when it comes to the lower back, they take a lot longer to respond and heal sometimes for an extensive period of time. So it may take 6 months to a year for you to not have any pain whatsoever if you have some type of long-term ongoing issue, or if it was from a traumatic event like maybe a car accident or something like that. With that type of injury, it takes a little bit longer, but as long as you give it the time, you give it the care, you give it the patience, and it's not restricting your ability to, one, work, sleep, do daily activities, you can modify around that, you are good to go. You don't need to get surgery. Like, you are good to go. And you might be better off, because sometimes those surgeries might leave you worse than you were before you had the surgery. So again, here are my criteria. If you can still do your daily tasks, if there are no red flags, first of all,
True.
like if you don't have any red flags from, getting that thing looked at. And, but yeah, you can do your daily activities. You can, still work. You can still get sleep. You're good to go, because sleep, we need that to further heal the injury. And then also, in order to function properly, your job, obviously you need to make money, and then also just functioning day to day without like being grumpy because you're in pain. I get it. I went through my own injuries, and I understand like the wanting to get it healed as fast as possible. But again, just think about those things before you think about surgery. And again, it's not a life sentence. You just have to do the proper things and take the steps in order to get out of that pain. And if you're watching this on YouTube, obviously you need to go and look at all the other videos and all the other podcast episodes that we release, and it'll give you some ideas of what you can do to work around that pain, to get out of that pain as well. Okay. All right. So the next one is osteoarthritis equals bone on bone.
Yeah, I feel like I think we call this like fear language, or like it's promoting fear in people, right? Because it's not actually like, people think of bone on bone, they literally think of like the surfaces of your bone are like scraping together, and so it completely kind of disregards like the synovial fluid that's still within the joint, the cartilage, which cartilage can be damaged as well. Like, I'm not saying that, but it totally disregards that. It totally disregards all the other soft tissue structures around the joint and whatnot, that may be still functioning, or that may be able to be adapted to something, via strengthening or movement or whatever we're doing in physical therapy, for example. So the bone on bone has really become like fear language, where it's like, people think bone on bone, they think worst case scenario, they think like these two like scrapey edges, and the only thing that can fix that is a joint replacement. You know what I mean? So I think that that's just really become fear language,
Uh,
unfortunately.
so when somebody does have osteoarthritis and somebody tells them that it's bone on bone, how can they kind of take charge of that whole entire process and examine within themselves, is this really like the outcome, and do I only need to can I only fix this thing by having some type
Yeah.
of procedure done?
You know, I mean, I think if anyone, like, unless it's like an emergency procedure, right? I think anyone that's considering a surgery should really go through a bout of, like, good physical therapy. Like, and that doesn't mean like you're going and you're doing like 3 sets of 10 sit to stands every time you go to the clinic. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like going through an actual like physical therapy where we are restoring range of motion. Because with range of motion, we're going to lubricate the joint that may be bone on bone, right?
Yeah.
But we're lubricating the joint. We're doing cardiovascular exercises, which is improving blood circulation systemically, which is improving the healing agents that are getting to the whatever joint that is the problem.
Mhm.
We're strengthening around the joint, so now the joint has more support, more structure. So if there is on top of, and I'm not saying that they're the joints age, like
Yeah.
their degeneration occurs. It's a natural aging process where we will all go through it.
Yeah.
But can we slow it down with healthy lifestyle choices? Yes, yes, yes. But even if we have degeneration via our MRI or our X-ray, there are things that we can do to slow the process down and even build the strength and structure around the joint. So if there is a movement issue or a mechanical issue or stuff like that, we can improve that, which will reduce pain in the long run as well.
Right.
So, again, going back to my point, I think anyone that is considering an elective surgery should definitely trial out a good, consistent, specific time frame bout of physical therapy before they do that.
Yeah.
And because even if you do end up getting surgery and afterwards in the long run, you're going into that surgery stronger.
Yeah.
You're going in with better blood flow to the area. You're going in with healing agents in the area. You're going in with stronger muscles around the joint.
Yeah.
You're going in with full range of motion. You're going into a surgery with 50% range of motion, and you expect to, bless you. Bless you. You're going into a surgery with 50% range of motion. You expect that to magically come back because of surgery. It's not going to happen. So going into surgery as close to 100% as you can is important as well.
Yeah, definitely. Got it. Yeah, because I know a lot of people could get frustrated with just first and foremost the pain that they're experiencing in that area. And I'll say in our Western culture, the main thing that what's the fix? Because we got that, take a pill, we're good to go.
Yeah.
So it's also get surgery, no pain, done.
Yeah.
Instead of I got to deal with the pain and I got to do this exercise that's going to cause me more pain. And then I'm going to be in more pain after that. And then maybe I might feel a little bit better, right? We don't want to go through that process, right? But it's good to know or even think about that. Hey, if you go through that process, then you could potentially save your knee from having to go through that surgery, and then that whole entire rehab process that comes along with that surgery, and also the financial commitment that comes along with that surgery too.
Yeah.
And then not only from the surgery, but being out of work for that extended period of time too, when you can just do your therapy or whatnot. And this is just again, if I understand you're going through pain, but at the same time, if you want to approach your injuries or the painful areas that you have in your body in a way that's going to empower you, go through therapy. Do your exercise. Move. You'll feel way more empowered knowing that you can do something about it than depending on somebody to have a procedure or do a procedure on you.
Right.
Right? So we're not saying this in order to get you to come to us. We are saying this to empower you to take control of your health. I'm huge on that. Huge on that. All right. So next thing is tendon pain equals rest and ice. Oh my goodness. I have some tendon pain going on. I need to ice this thing. What's going on here?
I know. I feel like I don't even have to say anything about the ice.
Hey,
right? Yeah.
People who haven't watched, they need to hear it.
Yep. So we've talked about ice, right? We've talked about applying ice either to acute or chronic, right? Even acute things, it will decrease the blood flow into the area and decrease the healing agents, and that's huge, especially for tendons, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty strong advocate against ice for injury healing. At all times,
Got it.
you know, but the rest part is interesting, right? You know, and is there a degree and appropriate timeline for quote unquote rest after a tendon injury or whatever? Yeah, there may be. Depends on the injury, depends on the severity, depends on if it's torn or not, depends on the area, blah, 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 whatnot, right? But complete rest is not usually prescribed, okay? Not usually. Because one, you know, tendons are meant to be, you know, their whole job is to kind of, you know, to be stretched under, you know, the muscle tendon attaches a muscle to a bone, right? So when the muscle contracts, the tendon, you know, reacts and it's under tension. And that's how, honestly, that's how we treat tendons, is putting them under load and under tension. That is actually how they get stronger, right? So just taking that into effect on the fact that on how much the tendon relies on movement and tension and all these things, complete rest can be a problem, a huge problem. Again, maybe acutely we're modifying things to allow that thing to simmer down, right? But eventually, like, rest is not a thing. You know, we have to get that tendon, you know, under tension again. We have to get it under load again. That is how, I mean, tendons love that. That is their job. That is, so when they're not doing that, one, they're getting weak, and now we're scared of an actual rupture at that point. You know, if we completely rest an Achilles tendon, you know, maybe we tweak it a little bit and we completely rest it, and then we go right back to whatever we were doing. You know, not only, you know, have we not addressed the root cause, right? But during that rest phase, we have completely weakened the tendon, completely weakened it, and we jump right back into something that's not gradual, that's not progressive in nature. And now we're doing the same demand on a weakened tendon. Not It's a recipe for disaster.
Right.
For sure. So that rest is not usually part of the actual rehab protocol.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And then knee pain equals strengthen the VMO.
VMO. So that VMO, right? The teardrop muscle, right? We used to think it is important, right? But I mean, we used to think it was like the end all be all. And it's like, when you have knee pain, you have to strengthen that, you know, and like kind of find out, like, all your quad muscles actually, like, they contract together, right? So, I mean, you know, we can strengthen the quad muscle, which in turn will strengthen the VMO, right? But yeah, like, to place so much emphasis on the VMO and isolating it, it's like, it's not. Just strengthen the quad and the hamstring, or improve the mobility up and down the chain, or improve the movement mechanics, whatever the person's problem is.
Yeah.
It's not the VMO.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not. You know, you
Right.
will get the VMO active with quad exercise.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
we need to prioritize other things.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, because I remember reading about that too. It was a lot like, oh, VMO, VMO, VMO. And they have that in a lot of the textbooks. Like, when I'm going through school, it's just like, okay, you need to strengthen the VMO. It's just like, well, okay. But then you see the study and it says, well, that can't be isolated.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So what
So
am
how
I
do
doing?
we do this here?
Yeah, right.
Strengthen your quad.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Moving on.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. All right. So the last thing is osteoporosis equals avoid all impact exercise and heavy resistance training. So for someone who has osteoporosis, you need to avoid all these things. You need to avoid high impact exercise and heavy resistance training.
Yeah. It's funny because I would advocate like the complete opposite, really. You know what I mean? And, you know, we say high impact, like maybe like later on down in their protocol. Like, it's probably not the first thing I'm doing. However, when it comes to like the resistance training, right? You know, osteoporosis, it's, you know, degeneration of the bone, right? We need the bone to lay down. We need it to build, right?
Yeah.
How do we get bone to build? We put tension on it. We put load on it. That is really the only way that we get bone to respond and lay down more bone, right? So I have someone coming to me with frail bones, and they're not supposed to do any type of resistance training. Like, okay, so where is this going to end up? It's going to be a vicious cycle, you know, and that's where, you know, fractures occur, you know, or they have this little stumble and they break a hip.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that should, no, we should be more resilient than that, right? So yeah, I mean, I would argue literally the opposite. If someone's coming to me with osteoporosis or osteopenia, you know, just the early stage of osteoporosis, They're someone that I'm getting under loads.
Yeah.
Progressively, gradually, yeah, because we're professionals.
Yeah.
But yeah, they need to be. They're strength training. And I'm getting away from bands as quickly as I can too. Yeah, bands are great to start, but they need load. They need weights on their body so that their bone responds and lays down more bone.
Yeah.
To strengthen the bone.
Yeah. It's crazy to think because it's like you would think the thing that's gonna keep you the healthiest the longest, movement and loading, is kind of put in the category of once there's some type of issue, it's just like, oh no,
Don't do that.
avoid that when it's the one thing that's really gonna help you the most. And I don't want to go conspiracy theorist here, and I won't, but you know what I'm thinking. But yeah, so all in all, just make sure that you are loading, progressively. Having a professional actually walk you through that, letting them know all the things that you're dealing with. And then also, what are you trying to get back to? Really focus in on those things. If it's like, okay, I have a hard time standing up now. All right, cool. We're going to get you, we're going to do some sit to stands in a certain position or whatnot. Or I have a hard time doing yard work or whatnot. All right, we're going to focus on carrying things. We're going to focus on how to kneel down under some type of load, bend over strength. We're going to focus on those specific components, right? So it's all about what you are trying to get back to, because all in all, it's about being able to live this life the best way that you possibly can, right? And we're not going to go through it with a mindset of fear, but capacity. What can we actually do, and we can do something about it. It doesn't mean okay, we got to avoid things. It means we have to approach things in a more structured, gradual manner. Right. That's all. Right.
Agreed.
Good. All right, folks. So that is all we have for that topic there. Again, the outdated ortho beliefs. If you still kind of fall into that camp, watch this again. Maybe look up some of the new research on these specific things. If you're an actual physical therapist, or you're a chiro, or you're an orthopedic doctor or surgeon or whatnot, look at the most recent literature. Look at the case studies that you have around you, the people that actually go through these specific issues and they come out on the other side without having to rest in ice, or it's not actually bone on bone, or not using that terminology with those people to scare them into believing that, and then them not feeling like they're capable in their lives, their life anymore. So those specific things. All right. So that is it for this episode. If you have any questions or anything that you would actually like to see in any upcoming episodes, leave it down in the comment section below, and we'll be sure to read those and get back to you. And as always, we appreciate you being here, and we'll see you in the next one.